When you hear the name Marco Polo, what comes to mind? Right? Epic adventure, daring exploration, discovering a world that to most Europeans might as well have been another planet. But here's a wild thought. What if the world's most famous adventurer was a complete and utter fraud?
Yeah, let's just dive right into that question, because this isn't some fringe theory. For centuries, a really deep mystery has been swirling around Marco Polo's incredible story. So what's the deal? Was he the real deal, a true trailblazer, or was he pulling off one of the greatest cons in history?
So, to even begin to understand the controversy, you first have to get your head around the sheer scale of the journey we're talking about. It's the kind of trip that made him a legend in the first place, and honestly, it sounds completely unbelievable. Okay, just try to imagine this. He leaves Venice in 1271. He's a teenager, only 17 years old, and he doesn't come back home for 24 years. For 17 of those years, he was supposedly living and working for Kublai Khan, who was, just the most powerful ruler on Earth at the time. The whole trip covered nearly 24,000 kilometers. That's more than halfway around the entire planet, done without a plane, a car, or even a GPS. It's just mind-boggling.
So when he gets back, he writes this book, The Travels of Marco Polo. And when it hit medieval Europe, well, it was like a message from outer space. It gave Europeans their first real, detailed glimpse into these incredibly advanced societies in China, Persia, and India. It didn't just expand their world, it completely rewrote the map.
But here's the thing. Almost as soon as the book came out, the doubters came out too. The stories were just so fantastic, so far beyond anything anyone in Europe could possibly imagine, that a lot of people just wrote it all off as a bunch of tall tales. And the cloud of skepticism, it's been following him around ever since. And this, right here, is the central puzzle. On one hand, Polo described things with stunning accuracy, things completely alien to Europe like paper money or burning black rocks for fuel, that's coal. He even knew these tiny details about salt production revenues that we've now confirmed match actual Chinese records from the time. But then you have the omissions, and they are shocking. How in the world do you spend 17 years in China and not once mention the Great Wall, or chopsticks, or tea for crying out loud? It doesn't add up.
So this leads skeptics, like historian Francis Wood, to a really radical conclusion. Maybe he never actually made it to China at all. The whole theory goes that he just kind of hung out at trading posts in Persia, listened to stories from real merchants who had been there, and then just stitched them all together and passed them off as his own adventure. I mean, that would explain both the accurate details and the massive glaring omissions, wouldn't it?
For a long, long time, this was just an endless debate. There was no real way to prove it one way or the other. But now, with modern historical methods and archaeology, we can actually go back and re-examine the case, looking for cold, hard evidence to finally solve this mystery once and for all.
So, let's play detective. What does the evidence actually say? We're going to break down the case for Marco Polo, clue by clue, starting with the biggest accusation of them all.
Okay, the Great Wall, the giant elephant in the room. How did he miss it? Well, here's the twist. The Great Wall that we all picture, it didn't exist when he was there. That massive stone structure was built by the Ming Dynasty 200 years after Polo left. Back in his day, his bosses, the Mongol rulers, controlled land on both sides of the older, crumbling earthen walls. They had no reason to maintain them or build them up. There was literally no Great Wall for him to see.
And while he might not have seen things that weren't there, the things he did see are described with an almost impossible precision. Let's take that paper money. He describes exactly what it was made from, the bark of a mulberry tree. He notes the emperor's red seal stamped on it, and even that different sizes were used for different values. These are tiny, specific details that have been confirmed by surviving banknotes and Chinese texts. An outsider just couldn't have guessed that.
And it's not just the money. Historians have gone back and cross-referenced so many of his other stories. That tale about him escorting a Mongol princess to Persia, bam, confirmed by independent Persian records. His mention of Christian churches in the city of Zhenjiang, confirmed by a Chinese document from that exact time. And those salt revenue numbers he threw out, a perfect match with official Yuan-era documents. The list of things he got right just keeps getting longer and longer.
So what's the verdict here? Well, the modern consensus among scholars is this. Marco Polo probably exaggerated his own importance. Maybe he wasn't the powerful governor he claimed to be, more like a mid-level official. But the core of his story, that he was there, yeah, that part seems to be true.
And maybe the most telling piece of evidence comes from the man himself.
As he lay dying, the story goes that his friends and family gathered around, urging him to take back all his fabulous stories. His famous reply? "I have told only a half of the things I had seen." He insisted that reality was even more incredible than what he'd written in his book.
And whatever you believe, his legacy is absolutely undeniable. Christopher Columbus had his own personal copy of Polo's book, and he filled the margins with handwritten notes. It directly inspired his quest to find a westward route to Asia. And you see this map? The famous From Maro map. It was one of the most important maps of the 15th century, and it was created using Polo's descriptions. His book didn't just tell a story, it literally redrew the map and helped kickstart the Age of Discovery.
In his day, people actually nicknamed his book Il Milione, which translates to The Million Lies. They just couldn't wrap their heads around it. And it really makes you wonder, doesn't it? When future historians look back at our time, with our global internet, smartphones, and ventures into space, what parts of our world will they find completely, utterly unbelievable?